Hello and welcome back to 1874. What day is it? It's Saturday. I'm here for a Saturday. Is it evening? Is it afternoon? We're just edging in to afternoon/evening territory. And I'm Dan Bardell, here for a transfer talk to go live and answer your questions and talk about everything that's happened around the Villa transfers and other news in the last 24 to 48 hours. Good afternoon, Richard Wilson. I'm very well, thank you. Thank you very much for asking and thank you for joining the stream live. Just wait for a few more people to filter in on YouTube, and then I will start to go over the topics that I've planned and then answer any questions that come in as well. Just a quick shout out to the sponsors, Match Bingo. Please scan the QR code or visit the link that you can see on your screen, 1874.io/matchbingo, and download the app, because it would really help us as a channel if more people downloaded the app and used it if you want to. And it is a really, really fun app to use as well when the football's on. I found myself tracking my bingo card through all the football that's been on recently. You can do it for the Women's Euros, you can do it for the Club World Cup as well, and I've actually been winning some money as well, so it's been pretty good to coin Larry David, if anyone knows what curb your enthusiasm is. So yeah, if you want to help the channel out, if you could click on that link and download the app today and sign up, that would be absolutely fantastic. Right then, more people starting to filter through now, so let's get into it. I haven't done a live for a while. It feels like there still has been content coming out on the channel through the last week, but it has been quite quiet up until the last 24 to 48 hours. It is going to start ramping up very soon, so there'll be more lives to come. But yeah, I've got a bit of a gap in my calendar, so I thought I'd jump on and chat to you lovely people that come and watch the channel live. So let's start then with the UEFA fine. I have not covered this on the channel yet. So Chelsea and Villa were found to have a squad cost ratio above 80% for 2024 and were awarded fines proportionate to the size of the excess. So for Villa, that was a 26 million euros fine. It's a bit like, it feels strange when you're kind of encountered with financial challenges to be punished to pay more financially when you're already struggling to filter into the rules. I've got to admit, I don't know whether that fine gets factored into UEFA squad cost rules next year. Surely that doesn't help, just with my very, very basic head on. That surely can't help with trying to comply next year, but I haven't had a brief from anyone or a full answer on that. But obviously it's not brilliant to fine people money when you're already punishing them for being kind of under financial regulation. So it doesn't make any sense to me at all. But that is what's happened. And of course, you know, the week leading up to this, people were celebrating PSR, and I did come on here and I did say the biggest challenge for Villa is still SCR, and it's a huge fine. It's a big fine. The club have worked with the UEFA and been speaking to UEFA around this fine. But if we fail again next year, which I think we would in our current state, it's going to be bigger problems. You are looking at registration issues in terms of, if you're in Europe registering players, you are looking at a huge fine. Again, people say, oh, it's only a fine, just take it. You can't just keep stomaching fines of that magnitude. It's just not possible. So Villa will want to avoid a heavy fine again this time next year. And also, you know, it sounds stupid, but teams have been banned for Europe for things like this before, if my memory's serving me correctly. So we've got to comply. We've got to get on board with this. So the club are very, very wary that SCR is still the hardest challenge for them. And it's been articles in the Telegraph and the Athletic, and I've spoke to a few people. Yes, there's not going to be a massive fire sale at Villa. Nobody's ever said that. But we are still going to have to sell someone. That hasn't gone away. I've seen some people going on now off the back of this, like, oh, we've been fined. Brilliant. That's the end of it. It's not. To comply next year, we're still going to have to sell someone. The current wage bill to turnover is not acceptable, and the rules come down as well. It dropped from 80% to 70% as well next summer, I think. So Villa have got some work to do, and they may just about get away with it with not doing anything, but they wouldn't be able to buy anyone. They've almost got to sell someone to fall in with the rules, and also to give Unai Emery the flexibility to reshape the squad and get some fresh blood and get new players in this transfer window. Villa are going to have to sell someone who we perhaps don't want to lose. That hasn't gone away. That's not changed for the entirety of the summer. Yes, they navigated PSR. That was the one that always had a deadline in terms of timing. But a lot of people have said all the way through this that the squad cost rules, UEFA, that is the bigger problem for the club this summer, and that still remains the case. So we are still going to see a big player leave this football club over the next 6, 7, 8 weeks. That's absolutely still going to happen. And if it doesn't, we won't be complying with the rules. So that would obviously be a massive problem, wouldn't it? Let's see who's joined. Hello, Michael Huggins. Hello, John. Hello, Chris Hutchinson. John Faruga's asking me if Monchi's on holiday. Not to my knowledge. He'll be working very, very hard. He takes his holiday in September, he said. So yeah, just because we're not seeing anything doesn't mean that there's not things happening behind the scenes, and there will be a signing in the next 1 to 2 weeks. I'm absolutely sure of that. So don't worry. People text me all the time. I don't know if he's watching. Car Park Danny from the Villa. This guy texts me every day in an absolute panic that we haven't bought anyone. And every time anyone gets linked with other teams, he's absolutely panicking. There's nothing to be panicking about. Yes, we'd all like a signing. It would be nice. We'd had signings by now this time last year, but there'll be stuff to come. I'm absolutely sure of that. So don't worry. It's coming. Let's all just be a little bit patient. Once it starts, it won't stop as well. Once you get one, it's like buses. Another one will come along. I'm sure with that. Sure about that. Sorry. Hello, Rachel into Lewis as well. Luke Williams is asking me, Dan, everyone loves a one or other question. These are things that come in quite a lot. Dan, who would you take if you could only take one, Yuri or Dougie? Well, Yuri, 1,000,000%. And he's already here, so that's great. So I wouldn't have to do anything in that situation. But Yuri is a superior player to Douglas Luiz, in my opinion, and it was brilliant for Villa last season. Not that Douglas Luiz wasn't a good player for Villa, because of course he was. Right then, what do I want to talk about next? Ollie Watkins, still a lot of noise around Manchester United. You'll have noticed I posted some content a couple of days ago around Ollie Watkins, and I had the displeasure of being on the radio, like I am every week, with my good friend Flex to argue about the merits of playing for Manchester United or playing for Villa. So go back and watch that if you can. Flex, to his credit, really wants Ollie Watkins. I've seen a lot of Manchester United fans turn their nose up at him. Flex is saying absolutely he'd be a brilliant signing for Manchester United, and I agree. He'd be a step up on anything they've had up front for a number of years. I don't think he'll go to Manchester United. I'm not sure Manchester United have the financial pull to do it at the moment. They're getting Embuemo from Brentford, of course. They'll get him, but after that, they've got to sell to buy. So I would struggle to think that they're going to get the money together for Ollie Watkins anytime soon. My bigger worry with Watkins, bearing in mind what I've said about squad cost rules and Villa needing to sell someone, the bigger worry for me is Arsenal, because there's something funny going on with Gyökeres and Sesko. Neither of them seem to be going anywhere. I think with Gyökeres, we all know it's well documented, the problem with the club, the agent. There's a lot going on there that's going to make it difficult for him to leave Sporting now. There's all kinds of tomfoolery going on there behind the scenes. Sesko's the one, because it was quite clear that Arsenal, he was their preferred striker. I'm not convinced he actually wants to leave Leipzig from what you see and how long everything's actually taking. So my worry is that they then move down to the next cab out of the rank, which would be Ollie Watkins. And if I'm being honest, I think the way it was for Ollie in the second half of the season, I think if Arsenal came in for him, I think I get the impression he'd be up for that. Sorry, I get the impression. I shouldn't have worded it like that. My gut feeling is that it would be entertained by Villa and entertained by Watkins. So that's the one I'm more wary of. But the noise around his future won't go away. But it is mainly Manchester United at the moment. But for me, I think Arsenal is still the more likely of the two. They're going to have to buy a centre forward. And if what I've just said about Sesko and Gyökeres turns out to be true, it'll be Ollie Watkins. They need a goal scorer. They need a proper number 9. They won't get away with it for another summer. I think if they don't do it, there'll be riots on the streets of North London. So that's the bit I'm more concerned about, Ollie Watkins to Arsenal rather than Ollie Watkins to Manchester United at the moment. Let's move into the chat, see if anyone's responded to anything I've just said. Your success rate is everything will be fine. I absolutely agree with that. Oh, I like this, Luke Hill. This is right up my street. Do you think we'll see any squad number change this season? Maybe Rodgers to 10? Well, this kind of thing's on my mind 24/7, Luke. So I've already thought about this, and that was the one that came into my mind, that perhaps that would be one that changes. Number 3 shirts available. Would Matson move to number 3? I'm not sure. Can't think what other numbers we've got available off the top of my head. The number 9 shirt will obviously be there for someone to take. The only thing with Rodgers and 10 would be if Asensio came back. Perhaps he'd look to take the number 10 shirt, although I know 21 is a favourite number of his. But these are all big things to consider. This is one of the most important days on the calendar, when the squad numbers get announced. We all know about that. So yeah, I'll be waiting with bated breath to see the new squad numbers. Sweezy AV says, any chance of getting Monchi on the channel? Seems a long shot, but he's more than happy to go on the radio / Spanish media. Yeah, that's very different to going on a Villa specific podcast. I think he'd have to get permission from the club to do that, and I'm not convinced he would get permission from the club to do that. I think they're very open. Vidagani, Monchi, but you're not going to see him on a Villa podcast anytime soon. I wouldn't suggest. Tony Lincolnshire Villain says, is it true that Ollie had to clear the air talks with Emery at the end of the season? I've not heard anything about that myself. I imagine they work together every day, so I'm imagining there's conversations, but no, not something that I'm aware of. Madueke signing for Arsenal. I did say that they've kind of agreed terms behind the scenes. Madueke is a player I'd actually be interested in down that right flank for Villa, but I think I suggest if Arsenal are in for him, then he's going to make that move to stay in London and go to Arsenal. But players already having terms agreed before a transfer fee's been agreed and stuff, that's part and parcel of football now. Villa have probably actually got terms agreed with a number of players at the moment, but the transfers haven't moved yet. Offers have to get accepted, but in a weird way now in football, it's probably more common that terms are agreed before the transfer fee. That's how the transfer market works nowadays. It's not supposed to happen. It's not supposed to work like that, but that is how it works. So that wouldn't be a surprise. Villa obviously very much want a right-sided player. They want a right-sided attacker. They want a backup centre forward or a centre forward of some description as well. They're two areas I know Villa definitely want to improve on this summer or want to get additions in. So he'd have fit the profile. Really. I think Madueke is a really good player. He's a player whenever I've watched him for England in particular, I've just really liked what he's done there. And also they need high level kind of someone who can cover Saka, but maybe also can play on the left hand side as well. And Madueke's been playing on the left hand side for Chelsea towards the end of the season. The other news since I last did a live was that Philippe Coutinho has gone. Villa have confirmed that Philippe Coutinho has completed a permanent move to Vasco da Gama. That's my phone going, which isn't brilliant. If anyone heard that, the 33-year-old spent last season on loan at the Brazilian side, with the two clubs agreeing to make the switch permanent. His Villa contract was set to run out next summer, and he was one of the club's highest earners on £135,000 a week. Thank you very much, Jacob Tanswell. And the Athletic now. You're not going to really ever going to get the specifics of what Villa have saved here. There will have been a saving in some description in his wages, because they will have had to have agreed a payoff for him to make this move and rip up his contract. So that Villa will have saved a little bit of money. But the flip side of that is that he'll have been paid off probably in one go. So it's good that we've got him gone. I don't want to be disrespectful to Coutinho. It just was one of those things. He decided to come. Villa then accelerated. He wasn't really part of Emery's plans. Emery wasn't going to use him. It was a kind of last regime all-round signing, wasn't it? Philippe Coutinho. It was the Steven Gerrard and Christian Perslow initiative, and then things changed away from them pretty fast, and he wasn't part of the plans. But unfortunately for us, he was a pretty well-paid player who'd been given a slightly too long contract, let's say. So Coutinho departs. Good luck to him. He's 33. I thought he was a little bit younger than that, but he's not. He's 33. There'll have been a saving somewhere along the line for Villa, but it's cost them in bulk. Would be my suggestion. But good that he's gone. Good that he can move on with his career. And it's one less kind of thing that we seem to have to talk about every summer, because I swear we were talking about this last summer as well. So that's good news, because no one wants to hear me talking about the same thing over and over again. Everyone's had enough of that this summer, I'm sure. The next thing I wanted to talk about was Tomiyasu being released from Arsenal. Now, I put something on social media about this yesterday, and a lot of people came at me. I wasn't fully suggesting that Villa go in for Tomiyasu. He's been released by Arsenal. He's had massive injury problems. I believe he's still injured now. In fact, what I was saying is, though, injuries aside, that's the type of player that Emery likes as a right centre-back / right-back option, and that's what Tomiyasu is, and he can also play left-back as well. So Emery's used that type of player at Villa. In Konsa and Zaza have done that to differing extents, and then he's also done it at Villarreal with the likes of Juan Foyth. It was something he's done very, very commonly. So what I was saying is, if Tomiyasu was available and was fit, and he could stay fit, he'd be a good pickup for Villa on a free transfer, because he'd operate as that right back / right centre back. That would be a good signing. I don't think it will happen. I'm just throwing it out there. He's obviously going to go somewhere. He's obviously going to have to get fit. Still really, really interested to see what happens with Lamar Bogard. this summer. Obviously, he's a player of a similar profile, although I think his best football for Villa came when he was either playing centre-back or central midfield. But that's what Emery was trying to do with him. You got the feeling that trying to make him like that right back / right centre back option. Now, I'm really, really intrigued with what happens with Lamar Bogard this summer. He'll come back for pre-season. It'd be interesting to see if there's any interest in him. He signed a 5-year contract. Can he get himself in pre-season, make himself and say to Unai Emery, I'm that right centre back / right back. You don't need to go out and buy a player in that position. I think that's going to be one of the more interesting storylines for us Villa fans of the summer. So I'm looking forward to seeing what happens there, because I think Bogard really, really grew as the season went on, and he had to play that period of games after Christmas. I thought he was brilliant. So I'm really, really interested to see what happens there. Final thing I wanted to talk about before I throw it to the floor was Marcus Rashford again. Basically, the fact that Nico Williams has turned down Barcelona, which is absolutely incredible, and signed an 8-year contract at Bilbao. Absolute scenes there. Not many people would have seen that coming. Still doesn't mean he won't go this time next year, but I would say that this opens up the door for Marcus Rashford and Barcelona. You know, something. It's been a heavy dialogue this transfer window, hasn't it? I think it's been more driven by Rashford's camp than it has been by Barcelona. Although there was some positive quotes from the manager, was it Hansi Flick, around Marcus Rashford. But now that Williams isn't going there, that kind of opens that up, and if that starts, the wheels start to move with that in the next couple of weeks, then I think we can we can completely rule out Marcus Rashford coming back to Villa. Whereas, contrastingly, if we go through the next month and this doesn't start to happen with Rashford and Barcelona, I think the closer it gets to the end of the window, you know, the Watkins noise with Manchester United as well, I still wouldn't rule out Marcus Rashford coming back to Villa. It's something I won't rule out until we know the wheels are in motion with Barcelona, because if that falls through or doesn't happen, I think he's going to get to the end of the window. He's already had his squad number taken off him. It's been given to Cunha. I think the doors will be open at Villa Park. So it's still something I wouldn't rule out, but I would say the Williams 8-year contract, that makes it more unlikely than it was. Right, I'm going to head back to the chat now. Thank you very much, Gareth Thomas, who's donated some, but I've got to be honest, I don't know how Super Chat works really. If anyone else wants a Super Chat, absolutely fantastic, but I don't know how it works. So unfortunately, I did just kind of cover this before I saw the Super Chat. So Rashford or Asensio, who is more likely to sign? Still Asensio, I think. I did see some Turkey murmurs the other week. Everyone seems to be going there at the moment. It's the new Saudi Arabia. I know they're very big payers. I know Leroy Sané is going over there from Bayern for an absolute huge wage. So there's definitely some pull to the Turkish leagues at the moment, and they are doing a lot of business. Of course, John Duran, he's either going or he's gone. I don't know whether that's been ratified yet, but I know he was going to Fenerbahce. Based on what I've just said about Rashford, I still think Asensio, because my feeling is that he's a player that Unai Emery has wanted to work with for years. He moved hell and earth to get to work with him this year with Asensio. Now he's actually had him in the building and has worked with him. He'll be desperate to work with him full time. And I still think in the Europa League, I think Asensio would be a massive, massive asset to a Europa League campaign playing on those Thursdays. I really, really do. Such a high level footballer. Fell away a little bit towards the end of the season, but scored some really important goals. I think if he got a full pre-season or a fullish pre-season with us working under Emery, I think on those Thursday nights you'd see a lot of Asensio, especially when it got to knockouts as well, if we were lucky enough to make it through the group stage. So I've got to admit, I still wouldn't rule out either coming. But at the moment, I think probably Asensio would be my feeling as to the most likely. What else have we got here? Chris Hutchinson. If Martinez moves on and assuming Mings remains an inconsistent starter, who do you think would be the new vice captain? There's obviously a leadership group at Villa. I can't remember off the top of my head who is in it, but Mings, Martinez, and obviously McGinn will be part of that group. Did Tielemans get moved into it? I've got a feeling Tielemans might be in it now. Don't quote me because I could be wrong on that, but I swear somebody told me that at some point. So I think it would be that McGinn would be captain and Tyrone Mings would be vice captain, but Tielemans would be next. I'd imagine he's in the top 4 choices for captain right now, Yuri Tielemans, and obviously he pretty much starts every single week as well. So I think he'd be one of the vice captains, if that makes sense. I hope that answers the question. Chris Hutchinson. K22M says we need a right winger who cuts inside and is left. Then we need a right back who's good on the ball. I keep saying I still don't think anything massively will be done at right back. I don't see an orthodox right back coming in now that we're in the Europa League, because I think it'll be Cash and Garcia, and you'll see plenty of Garcia during the Europa League, and they'll want to give him room to grow. They're happy with how he's developing, and now they're not in the Premier competition of the Champions League. I've said this before. I think Garcia will be given the Europa League. I still think they'll look to sign a right centre back who can play right back. That would be my thinking around that. But Garcia is very good going forward. Cash is good going forward when he's given the licence as well. Garcia, I would say, superior on the ball in terms of, he can use both feet, and he comes inside as well when he needs to. He's quite tidy on the ball, got good technique, Garcia. I think you'll see a lot more of Garcia next season. I still don't think we'll sign a right back, but I'm almost certain that we will sign a right-sided player, probably someone who's left-footed and cutting in. Neil and I did a video on Bakayoko. I did one on with Kevin Hatchard as well. I think he's the perfect player for us, if I'm being honest. But other teams are being linked with him at the moment, quite heavy links with Newcastle. Although Newcastle have been linked with a lot of right-sided players at the moment as well. I still think that that there's something in that, but we would definitely see a right-sided player down the flanks. I absolutely think that, but I'm not so sure on the right back side of things. Luke Hill, do you think Emery would take Nicholas Jackson as a Watkins replacement if he does go? Surely he'll be leaving Chelsea this summer with their signings, and he's worked with Emery before. I said this at the end of May when I did our kind of realistic transfers, and Rollo and we picked one from each Premier League club. I actually said Nicholas Jackson in May. Again, would be one I wouldn't rule out if Watkins was to move on. His situation at Chelsea really, really like him. I think there's a lot to work with, but Chelsea have shown previously that they're more than happy to deal with other Premier League teams and sell to other Premier League teams if it's a player who's not absolutely essential. And I believe with the signings they've made now, he falls down to not being absolutely essential. I think there's a lot of raw attributes to work with, some great tools to work with Jackson, and Emery would probably actually be the perfect manager for him. And like you say, Luke, he has worked with him before as well. That wouldn't be something that surprises me at all if Nicholas Jackson was to come into Villa. I think there's a lot to work with, as I say. He needs to sharpen up his finishing, but his movement and the work he puts in for the team, a bit similar to Watkins in fairness, but he is also getting a bit of a penchant for red cards at the moment as well, so he'd need to cut that out as well. Philly D says, bring Ben Brogio into the first team squad if we have to get costs down. His problem's fitness at the moment, got a long-term injury. He's got problems that are being looked at and that him and the club are trying to fix, but he's not fit at the moment. I don't think you'll even see him in pre-season. In fact, he's got a back issue from what I know that the club are looking at. That's why he missed the end of the season, which is a shame because he was developing really, really well. So that is a shame. But when he gets fit, there's definitely a player there. There really, really is. Tony Lincolnshire, hello. Kari, hello. Ronan Ward, hello as well. Hashtag lazy Saturday. I've got to admit, I thought it was Sunday. I keep forgetting what day it is. Kari celebrating how beautiful the rules and our Rich owners paying a fine. Perfect for us fans. It's not. I don't know whether you've seen the show from the start, Kari, but I went into it at the start of the show. We shouldn't be celebrating getting fined. We've still got problems here. The club are well aware that they've got problems and that it's still going to be a summer that's going to take a lot of manoeuvring and a lot of work. So any celebrations of that sort are premature, in my opinion. Sweeney AV, any updates on the Grealish situation? If we were to be interested, would the SCR situation completely rule it out with his big wage? I think by the end of the window, Villa would probably be able to stomach loans on fairly big wages. They're obviously not permanent. If they're a loan, no one needs me to explain that to them. But it would have to be a portion. Villa wouldn't be able to stomach his whole wages. It's the same with Rashford. Villa would need buy-in from the kind of loaning club that they'd be able to pay a percentage rather than the whole thing. But clubs aren't keen on doing stuff like that right now. But when it gets to the end of the window, often the goalposts shift, as we saw in January with Rashford. Things suddenly change in the last week. But Grealish is probably going to leave Manchester City. I think it's probably going to be on loan. I did see a segment on TalkSport the other day, and then I messaged Gabby straight off the back of it, thinking, his poker face was absolutely awful. He definitely knows something. He tells me he doesn't. He has assured me that he knows absolutely nothing around the situation, but he did say Grealish will definitely go somewhere this summer. He's got to leave Manchester City. So one to keep an eye on, because I keep saying this, I'm repeating myself like a broken record, saying I wouldn't rule things out. I definitely wouldn't rule out Grealish coming back to Villa, but I think much will depend on what happens with Asensio and Rashford as well. I've got to say that. What else have we got? Kari, Denzel Dumfries would have been our perfect right back. And what? I don't understand what you said then. Tommy Brad. I don't understand that, to be honest, Kari. But Denzel Dumfries, a player Villa have been linked before. But I think he's 29, 30 now. Don't see Villa doing that. I think I saw something about his release clause. Looked a little bit strange, to be honest. I didn't fully understand it, but yeah, I don't think we'll be signing Denzel Dumfries. Although what a player he would be in the Premier League. You feel he'd be absolutely ideal for an attacking Premier League side. Kari again. Sorry, I keep picking him out, but he keeps saying stuff that's piquing my interest. If I'm being honest, he's go to Villa on tour. He says the episodes with Max are thumbs up. I don't know whether he's talking about on this channel or on Max's channel. Obviously, Max has done a few bits with me on here, and I've done some stuff with him. But we did do a throwback video where we look back at some of the old footage of him on Villa on tour. So go over to Villa on tour after you've watched this and go and watch that, because oh my god, it is hilarious. There's some absolute classic footage in there from young Max. So he's young now because he's 24, but he was even younger then. That's how birthdays and mathematics work. So yeah, go back and watch that video on Villa on tour. And actually, we're filming something on Friday in person as well with Simons, which is going to be I don't know what it's going to be yet, but I think it'll be a good video. So watch out for that as well. Right, I think we're coming to the end here. A few people asking about Rory Wilson's a strange situation in the new contract, and I don't think he's just going to come from doing nothing to being in and around the Villa first team. I don't see that happening. Strikes me as needing a loan, but there was a lot of funny activity around that Rory Wilson situation and his contract. I do think sometimes young players, I think they've cracked it before they actually have, and this is my opinion from what I've heard. I very much feel that with Rory Wilson at the moment. So yeah, maybe you'll see him involved in pre-season and take it from there. But I can't see a player just making the jump from never having played first team football at any level above youth or under 21s level and then just coming straight in for the Villa first team. Don't envisage that happening, if I'm being perfectly honest. Right, I'm going to go footy stuff. Says Max has had an insane glow up, in my opinion. Yeah, I'd go along with that, but I would say also he was very, very young when he was when he first started doing videos. Whereas when I first started, I was very, very old. I'd like to think I've had a glow up though as well. Looking back at that old footage, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I look better nowadays than I did when I was doing early Villa View days. So I really had let myself go at that point, but hopefully people think I'm a lot better now. Right, if we're talking about stuff like that, it's definitely time to go. So thank you to those that have joined me live. Really, really appreciate it. Bit of a ramble at times, but when I'm trying to read a chat, trying to talk about things I want to talk about and just trying to do a show, I'm not the best at this, but yeah, I'm here. I'm doing it live. That's how it goes sometimes. Be back with more content. I'll probably jump on tomorrow at some point. I'm hoping something's going to happen at some point that means I can just jump on and not break some news, but react instantly to some news. I'm hoping maybe tomorrow is that day. Maybe that will happen. Let's wait and see. But if you've been watching via YouTube, thank you very, very much. Please do that stuff with Match Bingo that I harped on about earlier. That would be really, really greatly appreciated by me. Please also, if you could subscribe with your post notifications on, that would be brilliant. If you're watching this and you're not subscribed, please press that button for me now. I'd really, really appreciate it. Give the video a like as well and leave a comment with kind of just talking about anything that I've spoken about, whether you agree or disagree or have got any suggestions for future content, then leave a comment. If you're listening via Apple or Spotify, 5 stars, reviews, comments, all appreciated, all helps the channel. Thank you very much in advance for doing that. And like I say, there'll be plenty of content coming up over the next 7 days or so. So keep an eye out for that and go back and watch or listen to the stuff that came out earlier on in the week if you haven't listened or watched the stuff already. That would also be appreciated. I feel like an absolute beg asking for stuff all the time, but that is the game. Unfortunately, that is what we have to do when we do these shows. So thank you very much. I'll be back ASAP. Thanks again to those that join me live. Really, really appreciate it. Have a great rest of your Saturday. Have a great weekend. And as always, up the Villa.